day to you. Hope you all are having a wonderful day and excellent week. Welcome to Midnight Hatter Live, the weekly variety show where we talk Gundam, gaming, and Gunpla. I'm your host, Steven, aka Midnight Hatter, and joining me as always, the Gundam explainer, Blue Gamer, Adam Blue. How are you, man?
Doing good, doing good. And yeah, speaking of a blue gamer, just shout out, I got a Switch 2. Super stoked. Been playing
Very
Mario
nice.
Kart. I don't know how excited the general or the average 40-year-old is about Mario Kart, but
Probably more excited than the average 15-year-old, if you think
okay,
about it.
yeah, you're actually
I,
right
I,
about
I
that.
almost feel like the Switch 2 has a more active fan base in our age group than
It's
younger than
true.
us.
Actually,
Because
in
I
Ninte
think you've talked about this, like, your
yeah.
youngest, not
Well, yeah,
interested in
they didn't
Nintendo
care,
at
but
all.
also in Nintendo's last investors call, the investors were asking, what are you gonna do to start attracting the younger crowd again?
Mhm.
Which that's fascinating. It's yeah.
Stop cashing in on nostalgia.
And it's funny because you hear people say, like, how, "Oh, parents are buying the Switch 2 for their kids," but and there's no, no, parents are just buying the
They
Switch 2
sure
for
aren't.
themselves. They're just
No, and it's so funny, there's a young lady that works at, the daycare where I take my daughter, and she was talking about, like, "Oh, I finally got a Switch 2, and I've been playing Scarlet and Violet, it's so awesome, I caught 3 shinies already, like, this is amazing," and I'm just like, there's that meme that went around when the PS5 came out that was like the scene from Stranger Things where it was like when all of your friends are talking about getting a PS5 and you're mixing water with your shampoo to make it last longer. And it's
oh,
just like,
that's funny. That's funny.
that's me. I'm
Uh,
I'm the shampoo guy.
no, but you know what? I think we've seen even if, like, the PS4, I think I'll always remember the PS4 as being, like, a console that can span generations. Like, they really could still develop for it. They just want people to have a PS5.
Well, and that's been PlayStation's curse all along, is that, like, the PS2 was so far ahead
Oh.
of its time that it lasted so long. They had the same problem when the PS3 came out. The only way that they were getting people to buy PS3s was through Metal Gear Solid 4, and it's like, "Look,
Ah,
we're not even gonna let you play it on the PS4. You
I
have
know.
to buy a PS3 if you wanna buy if you
Even
wanna buy
still,
Metal Gear Solid 4."
that's
You can't emulate it either. No, so, it's just interesting, like, Sony has always had that approach and, for better or worse, I guess in this case, worse.
yeah.
But yeah, hey, I see a lot of familiar faces in chat.
Heck yeah.
Alan, Ultronomus, Goji,
Oh,
good to
Goji.
see you guys. This guy Gundam Explained is out here chatting with my fans. I don't know who he is, but he's causing problems. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight. Because you guys have bullied me so much, and you probably saw the poll in chat, I have restarted watching Gundam 00, and I do have thoughts, of course, that I'm going to share with you. And it sounds like you guys are not going to let me off the hook. I still have to continue watching it, but honestly, I'm enjoying it so far. On the whole,
Cool.
but there are some things that are very like very dated. Like the show is very much a product of its own time. But we'll talk about that shortly. First, I want to talk about some announcements. Um, this is a big Gundam week. There have been some huge announcements with G Generation Eternal. If you guys don't know, next week, G Generation Eternal is having another story event. It is going to be Thunderbolt. So there's going to be Thunderbolt stages, full
Nice.
armor Gundam, Psycho Zaku, all that good stuff. That stuff's going to be available. And then, of course, the next season of the Master League is going to come out. So that means like your PvP games. I've been loving playing through all of the new levels in Eternal, the Char's counterattack stuff, even the Seed Destiny stuff, which has been fantastic. What's interesting is that the Seed Destiny development trees are incomplete. And if you guys have played any SDG Generation Eternal, you know that certain series have incomplete development trees. So, like G Gundam, Witch from Mercury, I think IBO, those are all development trees that just have like little question marks, and they're like, "Hey, coming soon," um,
Which is cool. Were you, like, hoping to have completed some development trees? Like,
well, I'm always excited to complete development trees because there's great perks that come from doing so. But like, especially from Witch from Mercury, what's interesting is like you can track the path to the Calibarn. It's like, okay, I see aerial rebuild and then like Ilfrith plus this equals question mark. That's the Calibarn. And then there's like, okay, Darabald plus Ilfrith equals it's got to be the Schwarzette. You know what I mean? But then there's
Oh,
one that's like, okay, so what mobile suit comes from the Michaelis from Shadik's mobile suit?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. It's a mystery, so that's kind of interesting to me. And then likewise, what is missing from Destiny because the Destroy Gundam is in there, all of the Impulse versions are in there. Um, maybe the Infinite Justice Spec 2, something like that.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know, like there's certain things missing from that development tree that just
Well, because on one hand, it's like I feel like if like you're assuming what the suit could be, and you would actually want to use that as you're completing the levels, you know.
yeah.
Whereas it's more like, oh, you would unlock this later, but then it might not be as exciting to play through. I guess if you're someone that wants to play it through the story, I don't know.
Yeah, and then some stuff, it's like, man, you think about Char's counterattack, they literally give you everything from Char's counterattack. So in the development tree, you've got the new Gundam, you've got the high new Gundam, you've got the Zazabi, you've got the Nightingale, you've got the Alpha
Oh, that's
Aziru,
right.
the ultimate unit is the Beta Aziru.
Yeah.
Um, but it's only like 6 stages, so in order to rack up all of the development materials to max out all of those units, it's gonna take weeks, weeks and weeks.
So I wonder if they're maybe trying to figure out how players prefer to play. Big development tree, few levels, or lots of levels, and then like throwing out the development tree. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
I
interesting.
think, the Stardust Memory event kind of exposed them a little bit because it became so easy to complete that development tree and to complete it multiple times. Like, if
Yeah.
I had really wanted to, I could have had, like, 5 maxed out Volwallos, but, like, who wants that?
Yeah. Who
I
wants
just come on. And one of the things that I did do is I maxed out, like, 5, Zaku 2 F2s because if you guys know me, you know that that is my absolute favorite Zaku. So the F2, when I saw that that was available, even though it's, like, a normal it's not a rare unit or anything like that, I'm like, "Alright, we're gonna max it out. We're gonna, you know, we're gonna use the SP tokens, and we're gonna max it out that way so that it goes all the way up to 100." Um, so that it's just easy to do, so but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I love that they still have a roadmap, that they're still doing stuff for G Generation Eternal.
Yeah.
I know that that's not everybody's bag, but it's
Well,
my favorite Gundam mobile game.
what's the time frame you give it? Like, how long do you think they'll keep it up for? A year or 2 years?
I think that they've probably got 2 years of content, um, because they really have barely scratched the surface of a lot of stuff. They have not done anything AOZ, which I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. They
Because they
have
have
done a
some.
couple of AOZ units,
Yeah,
like, in the unit assembly, but they haven't done, like, a true AOZ event,
which
which
would be
is not
awesome.
my thing, but, like, I know that a lot of you
Yeah,
guys are
I
AOZ
would love
fans.
that.
So,
Yeah.
can you imagine what that development tree would look like?
Exactly,
That would just
dude.
be
If that is kind of their goal with that, 4 stages, here's a giant development tree, that would be so fun. That would be so fun.
yeah. Yeah, that would be wild, man. And yet still, it's like, "Okay, we're gonna do a Gundam Wing event."
Yeah,
But
but hey,
honestly, a lot of these events, like, they give you a lot of valuable stuff. So, like, for instance, this past Gundam Wing event that they did, the map event, the Dr. J Piece Million, which I didn't even want it because I was like, I don't I don't care about Dr. J. But I had played through the event so many times that I just had enough stuff to max it out. So I was like, well, I might as well. I bought everything else. Like I
oh,
say bought, but like
yeah,
I earned the in-game currency to buy out of that shop, right? I used like all the medals or whatever. And so I was like, all right, I guess I'll just max out the Peace Million. And that has become my number one supporter just
that is cool.
because it's super secret rare. It's completely unlocked, like, it's all the way maxed out. So even like my ultra rare supporters, because like I have a Muru from Gundam Seed. I've got Fa in the Argama, which
Oh,
that's
yeah.
one of the ultra rare. Those ones I have, but I'm not able to max them out because they're ultra rares. Because it was only a super secret rare or SSR,
Yeah,
whatever the
like a
terminology
Banter.
is. Dr. J is my number one supporter because being maxed out is more important than being a higher rarity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what you've taught me. When I would play, not that I'm playing that much, but when I do jump in, I am now focusing on more of those non-ultra rare suits, and I have a little more fun with that.
Yeah, dude, honestly, I've been watching a lot of people on YouTube and even oof, Reddit. Um, I've been watching how they have been beating some of the Eternal Road stages, and they will beat like the 300,000 CP recommended stages. They'll beat them with teams that are like 129,000 CP. And the way that they do it is by playing to the effects that a lot of these mobile suits have. So, like things like the Gundam Mark II being such a tanky defense unit, they'll block some of the attacks from the Quinn Mantha or from the Psycho Gundam. And then the Zeta Gundam, because the Zeta Gundam's long range attack inflicts an effect that makes their defense drop by 30%. If you have like two support units that are Zeta Gundams and you go like long range attack, you've dropped their defense by 60%. And then the next attack you hit them with is like a one hit kill.
Yeah, that is
So, and that's stuff that like even I, as much as I have played the game, I've not gotten into like that level of tactic. And so, I mean, seriously, the Zeta Gundam units in that game are insanely broken. Like between the Gundam Mark II with its defensive powers, the Zeta Gundam with its support abilities, and then the Hyakushiki with its map attack and the fact that it has like the highest attack out of any of the Zeta Gundam units, you could probably just wipe the floor with like half
a
the
Zeta
game
Squad.
using just those three units.
Dude, I would love to build up a Zeta Squad. That's kinda what I mean, I the Mark II, I have the Zeta is part of my mains. But you know what this reminds me of? You remember that game that came out recently, Clair Obscura 33 or
Yeah, I've heard
whatever?
everybody talking about
Expansion?
it.
Yeah, it's okay. It's turn-based, yeah, just like it's actually
There you
it's
go.
very funny actually how similar some of the mechanics are, but anyway, there was someone that I think I saw a post on Twitter or something where as soon as the boss fight starts, the first hit won. Slow it goes into slow-mo and it says win or something because they learned how to maximize a certain character's abilities to do one hit. I think that's kinda fun, although I don't know how much time that takes to really figure that out, and so, for me, there's this balance. Is it fun to calculate that? Although I bet some people just have it built in their minds where they're calculating things on the fly.
I mean, like left to their own devices, and especially coming from like the tabletop gaming world, players will optimize the fun out of any game. And for
Oh,
some players, that is the fun. Like they want to do
yeah.
that. They want to hit the one hit kill just because it's like that's so satisfying.
Yeah, I get
But
it.
I don't know. To me, I kind of like the maybe I'm
Yeah.
like a tennis player. Is like I love like a long volley. Like I love being
Oh,
able to hit the ball back and forth for a while.
I know what you mean because in Battle Destiny, you could play to where when I was the Freedom Strike Freedom, you could play to where I'm just constantly using my specials the entire time. But I liked zooming in, doing some attacks, flying around. Like I like to play it more classically, I guess, even though I could just, you know, max it. But yeah, I know what you mean exactly.
Yeah, there's something satisfying about the engaging gameplay.
Yeah.
But speaking of turn-based, another big Gundam announcement this week. This Friday is the official release of the Gundam card game. And I myself, this past weekend, went to one of these Gundam Learn to Play events and picked up my
Oh,
own
okay.
little
The
sample
starter.
deck here.
Yeah. Sweet.
Um, so much fun. Like I I'm looking forward to I'm gonna try to drop the video tomorrow, if not Friday. I'm gonna basically make it like a how to play video for those of you who are, Johnny come lately like I am, who have not learned how to play yet. I'm gonna
Yeah,
walk
like
you
me.
through the cards that I got from the event, my experience playing in person as well as the experience playing on my phone using the teaching app. I'm just so excited about this game now. I'm more excited now having like gotten my hands on it and played it
Yeah.
a little bit than I was before when it was just like, all right, where are the Gundam Assemble minis?
Yeah, and you know what? We should play since we both have the decks.
Hell yeah, man.
We should, like,
I'm
do
gonna do
it
my
as a live.
best to so Friday if I can try to get them online, I will. If not, then I will probably go down to the card shop that I was at this past weekend. I do want to get the Wings of Advance set, like the starter deck. Um and hopefully we'll get some minis with it. So
And remember that thing, and we did I think it was live on your show where I got the email that I could pre-order
yeah.
the decks, and they're not even here, and it comes out, whenever. Let me see. Yeah, it says payment received. It doesn't even have a shipping date. So I
You
think that's
guys
kinda
heard it here.
wrong.
I Venmo'd Adam the cash. So
Yeah.
don't it's not on
Oh, yeah,
me.
no, but
I'm playing with you. No,
the
but
thing is, I get from this is I feel like this whole thing was sloppy of r ha like, it seems like with everyone else, I could just wait until June and not have to worry about pre-ordering or popping up. It's or yeah, July 11th. I feel like it's wrong this whole time. They were like goading us to, "Oh, we gotta get this, we gotta get this," and it's like, I haven't I was lucky enough to pre-order it, and I don't even have it yet.
right,
Like,
like, what's the point of pre-ordering it if you could just buy it?
especially when it was like a limited pre-order, like, "Oh, put your name in so hopefully you can get it," and it's like, "Well, this Friday I can just possibly
I
go
could
get it."
just go and get it.
Yeah, that's
I
not cool.
think and I don't wanna bash on Bandai the way that we normally do. Isn't it sad that that's, like, kind of what we do? But
Yeah,
it does feel like a lot of these types of launches, a lot of these types of events are just so mishandled. It's like the
yeah,
idea is there, but the execution just falls short. Um, because
and
even with, like, the beta deck launch event, it's like got scalped like crazy.
yeah,
And
and
then
you
even if you were to go online now and try to pre-order any of the starter decks, people are selling them for like $60 a pop, and it's not
wow.
even out yet.
Yeah.
So we're
Okay,
talking about like Pokemon card levels of
right.
silly scalping.
So the thing that you're getting from what I ordered is the Gundam Assemble starter set Zeon's Rush. Does that come out? Oh, I'm seeing delivery month, August 2025.
See, so isn't it funny that like those pre-orders are coming out next month?
Yeah, let me check, I wanna check this other one. Uh, August 2025. Yeah, because the Gundam Card Game Booster Pack, New Type Rising, that's one I'm getting, and that yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. But honestly, I mean, the fact that you're getting a huge booster box is kinda cool. Honestly,
Yeah.
you and I should do a live stream where we just
Yeah.
you go through and open all the packs and we do like that'll
Hell
be
yeah.
so freaking awesome. And again, the card game has the same like level of development roadmap that G Generation Eternal has because it's like they've already announced that they're gonna have more colors, like more card types available. They've already announced like IBOs coming out, Gundam X. Zeta Gundam is dropping in December, which like hell yeah. Like
Yeah, dude. So that is pretty cool. I was even talking about how at the beginning of the year we got some cool Gundam stuff, but even throughout the rest of the year, it kinda goes to your point about as much as we might bash Bandai, they're, feeding us pretty good.
yeah, I think where it falls down to is it's like the product team is doing their job because they keep like a steady stream of content coming. But
Yeah,
it's the marketing side of things where things don't quite line up. And I know that that's difficult sometimes. Like, shoot, I work in marketing and
right.
like there are some products right now that I would love to have available on our website that, like, just product team wise, they don't have it, and I'm like, "Come on, guys, like, get these things
Uh,
processed so that I can list them, so that we can sell them, so that we can do something." But, we do
you
what
know
we can.
That reminds me because even on the Gundam Info, they had that YouTube video of, like, Gundam 2025 or something. Did you watch it?
No, I didn't, which is, yeah,
It's
that's,
it's nothing. It looks like it's a video made for investors or partners, 'cause it
mm.
it it doesn't really have any sort of call to action for, like, someone that's curious about Gundam. There's no, like, "Here's a thing you can get. Here's news." It's like, "We've made a VR game. We have more shows coming out." And so when you go to you talk about marketing, it's like, "What was this?" You
It
know?
does remind me a bit of, like, at my old company, my boss had come to me and he was like, "Hey, can you help me put together, like, a pitch deck, like, as if we were gonna sell the company?" And I was like, "Are we selling the company?" And he's like, "No, no, 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 can you help me, like, put together, like, a presentation that I can pitch to investors if we were gonna sell the company?
Oh.
We wanna have, like, something that we can really, like, sell what we're all about." And I was like, "Are you basically asking me to make a resource that's gonna allow you to lay me off?"
Oh, you yeah, so that's funny. So I'm curious then. Well, actually, how long ago was that?
Well, this
That
was
you
years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm curious then if we're gonna see some interesting new third-party relations going forward with Gundam, which I think we've said would be a good idea in the past. How we talk about, like, Hasbro reaches out to other companies to make things.
Yeah, and there's, like, that Call of Duty mobile thing that just dropped, that came out of nowhere.
I know. I know.
Um, Dan Vince says that video is definitely an investor pitch.
Yeah.
Ultronomus says that trailer was neat, but is like an intro to the newest of newbies. Yep, absolutely. Midnight Unboxer confirmed. Absolutely. And Alan Mitchell says sus.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. But, yeah, we'll see.
So yeah, I'm excited to you know, just get some more of this stuff, and obviously I'm gonna keep talking about it and promoting the things that I like, bashing the things that I hate, and we'll go from
Yeah.
there. Speaking of things that I hate,
Oh,
before we hop into I feel like, man, we're 24 minutes in and we haven't even touched Unity yet, which is a shame because I've got some cool things to show you guys.
okay.
But I do want to talk about Gundam 00
Ooh,
because along with like Evangelion, I think Gundam 00 is one of the things that you guys have been bullying me the most about when it comes to like you call yourself a Gundam fan and you've never watched 00. To you know, in my defense, I tried to watch it twice and fell asleep.
yeah.
This time I didn't fall asleep because, it would be in bad form for me to try to feed my child and fall asleep at the wheel. So,
Yeah,
um,
understandable.
so I put Gundam 00 while I was feeding my daughter, and I'm like 11 episodes in, and I've got some thoughts. There's definitely some things that I could talk about. Adam, I was recently before the stream started, I told you I find a lot of similarities between something like Gundam 00 and something like Witch from Mercury, where the characters are so freaking awesome. Like there's these rich characters that have compelling backstories and complex motives, and then you have this plot that just falls so short of serving them in any meaningful way. And it's very much like a product of its time, like being early 2000s. It's got like this, obviously like the terrorism angle. It's like, hey,
Oh, yeah.
Patriot Act type deal. What I think is interesting is it's got this thing where like it actually uses actual country names, right? It's like, oh, Ireland, and like the IRA has stepped down and they're no longer going to be violent. And then the United States and Russia and China. But then when it comes to countries in the Middle East, they have
Yeah.
these like generic, nondescript imagined country names. But they're also kind of offensive because I was like, wait, is that country like Talibanistan? Like
Yeah.
it's
Dude, it almost reminds me in, like, Call of Duty, what
yeah.
like, who are the bad guys you're fighting? It's just some random Middle Eastern style thing. Yeah.
It's like they don't wanna call out a specific Middle Eastern country because that would be offensive, and so they're just
Yeah.
they just, like, create, like, a stereotype of this type of person, and it's like, well, that's almost worse than saying an individual country.
Yeah, I
Um,
can't wait when movies start having the bad guys be just our leaders all the time. It's just the people with money. It's like, another bad guy's just another person with money. There we go.
well, but that's always been the thing, right? Like Lex Luthor is like it's like the corporate businessman, which
Yeah, true. That's I think what makes Superman a little more genuine in its storytelling.
yeah, I think,
Yeah.
one of my favorite quotes that goes around on Twitter from time to time is like, "It's easy to hate the rich, but do you have the courage to hate the poor?"
Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
No. But yeah, the writing in Double O, I think, is kind of interesting because you get these awesome speeches and you get these awesome, like, kind of poignant conversations about even things like theology, like, the meaning of God in war and stuff like that. It's really interesting. And then you have these lines that are just kind of silly and like they dwell on the idea of celestial beings stopping that one country, Taribia. And it was like, whoa, what are they doing? I can't believe they're attacking the country of Taribia. And it's like, dude, the leader of the country came out and said, hey, we're going to secede from the Union because what are y'all going to do about it? If you attack us, then celestial beings going to attack you. So deal with it. And it's like, of course they're gonna attack them. Like, that is the geopolitical equivalent of saying, like, "I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching" you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's like with
and
I feel like it's almost like what Wing was also trying to do, where it's that whole thing of like or even Seed, like there shouldn't be violence, but we have to use the violence to stop them from potentially having violence. You know?
exactly.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Violence begets not violence somehow.
But and so
It
that's what I
works in
liked
my
about
mind.
See Destiny, where they pretty much made fun of that concept, like, saying, "Yeah, that can't happen," and then by the end, whatever Durandal dude, I forgot the story, but yeah. I forgot the story, but I know Destiny flipped it on its head, so.
That's definitely one that we're gonna have to talk about, and you and I have talked about, like, doing some of these deep dives on individual series, and we are going to do it. I'm committed to doing some more of these, more introspective, retrospective type, uh I almost wanna call them introspectives, because it's not an introspective in the terms of, like, viewing from the inside out, it's more like from the outside in, viewing what this story's about. But yeah, it was like it cracked me up when one of the characters was like, "If you don't understand why celestial being is doing this, then you don't deserve to rule this country." And I'm like, if
Hey,
anybody doesn't understand why celestial being's doing this, then why are this is so stupid.
I can't wait for you to get okay, the character Lock On. Have
I
they
love
dived
Lock
into his
On.
have they dived into his story yet?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay,
Um, you
just
know,
wait. I am curious to see what you
well,
think about
and
what
it's like I already know that, like, there's a bit of that, like, the dead twin brother type
okay,
deal thing going
okay,
on.
that's what I was
Um
gonna say.
And, like, let's be honest, my favorite character is Alleluia, so let me go ahead and get
Oh,
my Alleluia haptism.
okay. You know, you just doing that right now reminded me how the characters are cool. They're memorable.
They are very cool. No,
Yeah,
and like I said, they are very much, like, products of their time, like, the fact that all of the Gundam Meisters have, like, long hair and they, like, have this kind of emo goth thing going on. Um,
and the voice actor of Amuro Ray, the English voice actor,
yeah.
did Setsuna. Um,
So, yeah, Amuro Ray did Setsuna, Duo Maxwell from,
oh, yeah, yeah.
Gundam Wing does, Hallelujah. Yeah, they recycle a lot of those voice actors, but what was interesting is they actually have range. Like, what's interesting to me is that Alleluia doesn't sound like Duo Maxwell. Like, he actually does give a different
Yeah.
performance, which I really appreciate. And then, like, let's face it, Sumeragi is just eye candy, right?
Yep, and I think it elevates in 2 ways, the whole I don't know, but I think that's an example of a well done waifu.
Yeah, yeah, very tasteful.
Mhm. Whereas in IBO, I feel like it's almost gratuitous, even though, I don't wanna judge, but
Yeah, let me see, anything else that I wanna share about, Double O so far?
Well, what's your favorite mobile suit so far?
Curios.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's Zeta Light, right? Or
yeah,
maybe it's not Zeta Light, maybe it's, like, Zeta Plus because it's
yeah,
got, like,
but it has more
little
of that,
extra.
yeah, Zeta line UC DNA in it, and I think that's why I like it too. Although I like some of the concepts of, like, the Nadelli or whatever you call it that has the tendrils that can come out,
Oh, yeah, the
yeah,
Nodlay.
Nodley, thank you.
That was an interesting I love the idea of a Gundam within a Gundam, like, that kinda thing,
Yeah.
like, that's cool. Um,
So it's interesting in this series, they kinda went far with designs of interesting gimmicks of Gundams, and maybe that kinda took away from them just being cool looking, because
mhm.
I don't think any of the suits in Double O look that great.
Yeah, I mean, the Union flag, like, all of the flags in
Yes.
general are cool to me because they're flight type mobile suits, but, like, at the same time, they kinda look spindly, like,
Yeah,
they're kinda
very
weird looking.
yeah.
Likewise with the Tieran. The
Oh,
Tieran to me is probably the most grounded mobile suit design of any Gundam series. Like, if the UN tomorrow was going to drop a mobile suit, it was going to be the Tieran.
yeah. That's a good one, actually, and I wanna say, let me look at that again. Yeah, it was given me, or, uh, maybe not now that I'm looking at it, but Witch from Mercury. There's this Witch from Mercury suit design DNA that I would see that sometimes starts, like, with Double O, where it's, like, flat
Yeah.
faces that don't have, like, much going on, and so but
The Zord. The Zord
oh,
from Witch
okay.
from Mercury and the flag from Double O are
Mm.
almost identical, the same suit. I feel like I feel like the guy from, My Cousin Vinny. Identical. Uh,
No, I think that's one of the ones that I was thinking of. Interesting. Yeah. I'll have to look at the designers later. I'm always interested in that.
that stuff is very cool to me, and I do appreciate, like, a lot of the politique in Double O and the fact that every one of the factions has their own sort of design aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like, you see the tier and you know that that's, your Human Reform League. You see the flags, you know that that's the Americans.
Yeah, factions. Just like I love in my RTSs when you got the different factions and you can recognize them when you're playing.
Exactly. Well, shoot, on that note, should we let's show off some of the stuff we've got going here, because
Yeah.
man, I feel like we're burying the lead pretty deep.
Well, as you
Um,
get started, I am gonna real quick run into the backyard and pull up the lawn as it's gonna start raining here pretty soon. So I'll be just a sec.
so there you hear. I mean, guys, it's been raining here for a while. I did lose power a little while ago, which kind of offset some of the work that I've been doing here. Not a big deal, but um, yeah, man, I swear this storm season going on this summer has been hitting very hard, and obviously, I've been praying for the folks and the families that were affected by the floods down in Texas. That was insane. Like, I can't even imagine it. I'm never sending my daughters to any kind of camp ever. That's terrifying stuff. um, and so likewise, we had our power blink. Like, there's been thunderstorms the last few nights here. It's
Oh,
been
so for you too. It's been
yeah, dude. I'm telling you, like the entire, like, from south to east coast of the United States has just been
yeah.
battered with rain and flooding. So,
And luckily,
uh,
I think wife had already prepared the lunch. She knew I was on a podcast. Isn't that great?
she, uh, that's how you know she's a keeper.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, let me. I've got the screen share going here, and things obviously look probably a little bit different than the last time we looked at this. I've even got an SD Zaku instead of the standard Zaku that we had before, and I think what you're going to find is that the SD unit. We might not stick with SD as like our final design choice, but for the purposes of the visuals that I'm about to show you, the SD units are more recognizable from a long distance. And so one of the things that I did in between last stream and this stream is I implemented a trick that I learned a long time ago. Yes, it's cheating because I didn't do the vibe coding thing. I didn't ask AI how to do this. This is something that I already knew how to do. This is an interesting trick that you can do in Unity where you've got your main camera here, right? This is the camera that captures the scene and the displays it to your display, to your screen. Well, what you can do is instead of displaying it to a screen, you can portray it onto a texture. And so what I did was I created a texture here called Pixelator. You can name it whatever you want. But the
Mhm.
idea is you reduce the size of this texture by whatever pixel size you want it to be. And then you take that texture and you put it onto a canvas, which is your UI layer in Unity. So like if you were to have like a menu or like a heads up display, it would be on the canvas. And so you take that texture, you put it on the canvas, it's basically on top of what the game is showing you. And what the effect is that we've basically taken our 3D game and we've flattened it and turned it into a 2D pixel art game. And I love the effect that this creates because it feels like an old school Command and Conquer game.
Heck yeah.
Um, yeah, I can't wait. It does introduce some complexities that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, but I do think it's pretty awesome. Let's go ahead and check this Pixel Perfect box because I think that that's going to make it look even better. What are the other things that I wanted to share about this particular process? There was one other thing that I wanted to mention, and I forgot what it was.
Anything
Mm,
about movement, about the terrain? Because this looks cool.
yeah, I added some new terrain just for visual,
Yeah,
so that like obviously when we're looking at the pixelated terrain, it'll be cool. Um, yeah, I forgot what we were going to talk about. I'm sure it'll come back to me
yeah.
as we're looking at it. So I'm going to hit the play button here and show you guys what the actual game mode looks like.
Nice. I'm excited. And by the way, guys, I hadn't oh, whoa! I hadn't seen this yet, but that it looks like I am looking at a video game screenshot. Just the I think the and how did you determine the angle?
Oh, well, the angle we can change, obviously. The
Just because
camera,
it
I
looks
think
good. Like, I'm curious, is there, like, a default for something like that, or did you or you
it's
just have it
well, it's got like we can tweak the angle of it, right? So like right now, I have it set at
and I think it
the
looks good.
rotation of it is at Y12 and Z negative 20. One of the things I think we should do is we should remove the look at because I think that look at is probably causing some of the jittery. We just want it to follow our camera rig, which the way that this camera works is there is an invisible object that we control using the WASD keys, and the camera is basically locked to that object. And so basically, when you're moving that invisible object, the camera is moving kind of like a dolly.
Right.
Um, and we can tweak these values to kind of adjust where we want the camera to point. So, like, if we want it to be more top down, we can reduce that Y value to like something like 7, and then reduce the Z value to something like negative 15. It still kind of arrives in the same area. We can adjust the X value, but that really doesn't make a huge difference because at the end of the day, you're still going to want to control it with the WASD keys, right? Oh yeah, that looks so much smoother. Like now that I removed the look at target.
Oh,
Um, I did lose my unfortunately I lost my cursor.
I love that there's an idle animation.
Yes, we have idle animations, we have movement animations. Let me restart this because I do want to show you guys how this cursor works. Um, it's firing up again here. All right. Oh, it disappeared on me again. Uh, all right, let's see if we can find this cursor. So if I go to the scene view, let's see where this cursor went. Yeah, it snaps to the weirdest places. Um, but that's part of the complication of what we're doing here is, like I said, with this pixelator camera that we did, which, oh, that's the other thing I wanted to mention. So the difference between the camera, we changed it from perspective mode to orthographic, which takes everything like, typically when you have things in perspective mode, it has that focal range where things kind of fisheye a little bit on the sides. When you set it to orthographic, it flattens it out. So, like for instance, this would be perspective mode, where you can see the curvature of the camera in the screen, right? But then when you set it to orthographic, it's flat.
Wow, that's not
Huge.
something I thought. Can you name games that do each way? Just off the top of your head?
Um,
I don't know.
Shoot, I mean, every isometric game that, like, basically, like, literally every isometric game uses an orthographic camera because they have to. Like,
Okay.
um, it just makes it like it just makes it easier to perceive distance, because the problem is if you're in perspective mode and you can't change your camera angle, like, it makes it hard to gauge, like, well, is that, like, have you ever played a beat 'em up where, you go and you're trying to, like, move up the stage to hit an enemy, and you're kind of like, you hit just short of them because you're not quite on the same plane as they
Yeah,
are?
yeah.
That's where this kind of camera makes a huge difference.
Okay, so I guess that is a complexity added when you're making an RTS that's 3D and not 2D.
Exactly.
Yeah, you have to account for that.
Um, and then one of the added complexities of what we're doing here is that, and you can see it here, like, this is such a perfect visual representation. So, like, this is our 3D map, right? This is what the game actually looks like. But if we zoom out here, you can see on our UI layer, this is what the actual game camera is seeing.
That's so weird.
Isn't it? It's kinda crazy. And so our old camera system relied on ray casts. So we would take a beam that we cast from the camera and we shoot it at the map, and that's how we determined what unit we were looking at, where we want the unit to move, all that good stuff. Here's the problem. When we have this pixelator layer, all of our raycasts are hitting that layer and they're never getting to the units on the ground. So how do we get around that? Well, we have to actually physically create a cursor object, which is what that little blue ball is. Let's see if I can zoom in on it again. So this little blue ball is an object that we control. And this actually is kind of cool because it's going to allow us to future proof the game, where instead of only controlling on keyboard and mouse, we can actually control this using right and left stick on a mobile device, on a Nintendo Switch, on a PS Vita, whatever game console you want to play it on. The left stick is going to control your camera pan and the right stick is going to control your cursor.
Hmm.
And by doing it this way, hopefully this time will work. I've been having issues with, like, the cursor being kind of jittery. Um,
There's all these little things, and with your knowledge too, and coming across that, I mean, with someone like me, when I was trying to make that Castlevania thing the other day, and I run into roadblocks from the craziest things that you don't anticipate, you know?
yeah,
Um,
you really do, man. I swear it's nuts. Like, so, like, the cursor, you saw it. It was on the screen and now it's just gone, right? Um, and I don't know where it snaps to when it does this, because it's something about, like, the mouse delta. Like, when the game starts, it just suddenly snaps out of existence. And I have implemented a script where it will move with the camera, but if the cursor moves too far, it doesn't stay within the camera bounds. And that's one of the downsides of, like, where the ray casting would be nice is, being able to do that. Okay, so here you see the cursor is on the GM. Let's see. Alright, so when I move the mouse, we do get some motion here. And then when I move the camera, you see that the cursor moves. So what I
Yeah.
need to do is, like, I need to I need to find a way to nope, see, there it goes again. I gotta find a way to keep the cursor on the screen long enough for me to click into the map. Oh, see, there it is. Alright. Come on. Uh, okay. Now we can do some cool stuff. So the cursor does have an automatic snap feature where it snaps to the navigation plane that the units are attached to. When we overlap one of the units, we right click. And I don't know if you can see this, you probably can't see it on the stream, but in the lower left corner, I have some debug lines. So it says selected unit GM. And then when I move my cursor and click over here,
Huh.
our GM goes running. It's pretty awesome.
I can't hate the SD. No more. No
Like
more.
at this scale, I think that it just makes more sense. Um,
Yeah. Especially if there was like 6 of them or something, that you're selecting and moving around, that would look really great.
oh yeah. So, I mean, if this was our, like, Command& and Conquer style game, like, this is
Or even did you ever play Warcraft 3?
I never played any of the Warcraft games, so my experience with RTSs is limited to Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds, um, Lord of the Rings: War of the Ring,
Yeah.
and, there was actually Jurassic Park RTS, believe it or not, like a
Oh.
Lost World.
Well, what's cool about Warcraft 3, they introduced, like, the hero unit where you would build a hero unit, and it would
Yes.
almost play like Diablo, but it wouldn't go that far, but just the idea that you could have this unit with, special abilities that have cooldowns and you can upgrade them, um, and I feel like there is potential, for that, but anyway, just seeing that one guy run around, it just made me think, "Where's Bandai? Where's the ARPG?" You know?
Yeah, like, where and honestly, I think that I've already been thinking about how we could incorporate like hero type units. And one of the things I was thinking about was I imported the animations from this pack that I downloaded, and I think I've shown this on stream before. Are these
Oh,
Toon
yeah.
soldier units that I wish do we have any of the prefabs? Probably not. Models,
I tell you,
Toon
I
soldier.
and I know TJ was talking about Unreal in the chat, but I am seeing some very similar stuff between Unity and Unreal. So it's kind of neat that at the end of the day, these game development tools, it's like as a consensus, I guess designers have kind of or developers have kind of created almost a universal kind of language. I don't
Yeah,
know.
there really is like a universal language when it comes to game design, like especially game engines, because all game
Interface
engines kind of
software.
need to do the same thing roughly.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the things I was thinking of was like this is the texture map for some of these like little Toon RTS units that I've got. And if you see like all of the entire thing, it's like you've got different faces in here, you've got different uniforms and stuff. I'm thinking like right here in the center where you've got like this collared shirt uniform, like what's to stop us from making this like a tan colored shirt with a black V on the top and making it a Federation uniform?
Oh
And then
yeah.
we so basically, we would take all of these RTS soldiers, retexture them to look like Federation and Xeon soldiers, and then those become our pilot units. And the way I'm thinking
Yes.
about it is after a mobile suit is destroyed, a pilot comes out, and its default state is to just run back to your base. And if they get killed on the way to your base,
Yeah.
you're screwed. But if they make it all the way back to your base, that unlocks a unit for you to, like, have a hero level unit where it's like,
That
"Okay,
is cool.
I just like, my GM pilot escaped, he comes back, then that unlocks the GM command unit, and so then, like, it allows you to
Yeah, that is aw
how
especially
badass
within
would that be?
yeah, especially if you could build transport, so, like, a micromanagement action could be, "Okay, let me see if I can try to get some of these guys while I'm also trying to defend and replenish." In
Heck
Command& and
yeah,
Conquer
man.
yeah, in Command& and Conquer Generals, they did that, so, like, you would get star, like, veterancy, like, as a
You get,
unit
like, a
does
Purple Heart for
yeah, and if it blew up, that soldier would carry that level, and then you can put them in another vehicle, and then all of a sudden that vehicle was upgraded. So I think there's a lot of
wow,
potential for that
dude,
idea.
that's
But I
awesome.
like yours a lot. I like the angle you're going with. It's almost integrating deliberate combat with a tech tree, you know?
Yeah, yeah, like and you know how much I love tech trees.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um,
And a Gundam RTS is primed for a badass tech that could be part of the gameplay if you think about it. 50% of it is managing your tech tree. I don't know, but
I think so. I mean, that's probably a lot of what people would enjoy doing.
yeah.
Um, so we're gonna let's go ahead and take our humble GM here, and we're actually gonna make it into a Zaku, using our mobile suits here. I've got a Zaku F2 mesh. Let's drop this into this other unit here. We're gonna delete the GM model. We need to unpack this prefab and remove this. We don't need an animator component on the sub level. We do have to increase its size by 100. Um, I thought I had done all this stuff already, but I think what happened was when I lost the power earlier, it
Oh,
stripped out a lot of the things that I had done. So let's
oh, no.
retexture this Zaku. He's looking pretty good so
Hmm.
far. He's already on the unit layer, which means that he's selectable. We can put it that way. Um, the animator is going to automatically populate. We do need to change the avatar to the Zaku 2 avatar. And now I think we have everything we need to basically, like, that's a second unit for us to control. Let's double
Let's
check
see.
and make sure that that works.
That would blow my mind because I feel like that would be a huge step.
It's huge baby steps is
You're
the
right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
yeah, it looks like we are in business. Um we do have this issue where, like, the cursor gets all janky on me. Sorry.
Hey,
So we
ask
select our
ChatGPT about
Zaku,
that later.
we send our Zaku walking. We
Ooh.
select our GM, we send our GM this is dude, this it's so satisfying to do this.
Just looking at it, yeah, controlling units on a battlefield, dude.
I mean, there's so much more that obviously we need to, oh, man, they do not like each other. See, this is the problem with Xeons and Feds, man. They
Yeah, they
No,
haven't been
I need
equipped
to
with a weapon yet, so and there's probably no logic built, all that stuff, yeah.
no, we definitely need to build in some of that logic. But the last thing that I think I wanna try before we sign out for the evening is right now, obviously, the pixel art I think looks good, but, in the words of Pedro Pascal, it could be better. Uh, I have a
Is that a
package
Wonder
in
Woman
here.
reference?
Is that a
Wonder
Wonder
Woman '84? The
My
worst
god, what is
the
wrong
worst
with you?
DC movie.
It for all 2 people that got that reference.
I can't believe I got it either. I think I was even half watching that.
So, I did, add a package in here that is a toon shader. So currently these use, like, the default material shaders. What I think we can do is if we use a toon shader with, like, an outline attached to it, obviously you see how it, like, kind of affected the overall look of the unit. It kind of makes it darker, kind of makes it, you can almost see where the cell shading occurs,
Yeah.
right? By doing this, then when we go into our pixel view, that that texture then gets amplified like, oh man, I think it's gonna look really good.
I do too. I'm glad you thought about stylization, even though sometimes that doesn't matter. I think for something like this, it's kind of important for multiple reasons because you can portray Gundam in any way, but it's good to kind of get an idea of what you want to do.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, definitely. I think uh one of the things that I think holds people back when it comes to video game development is that they don't have like assets they're working with, and so then they kind of like it makes it hard to visualize what the final product is going to look like when you're just like moving a capsule around. Like
yeah.
moving mobile suits around feels good.
Just watching it makes me want to click and move it around.
You're like phantom click.
um,
Um, so let me
so oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, let's see what this looks like in the pixel
Yeah.
view. Yeah, I mean, well, I lost my cursor again,
Dude, the way
but
the idle animations look, there's something about it that just makes it feel weighty. Um,
it's very satisfying. I mean, like,
yeah.
let's select the Zaku, have him move. Dude, I think that the tune shader makes such a difference in the final product.
Must be, yeah,
Like,
'cause that looks great.
I don't know about you guys, but this to me looks like a late 90s, early 2000s, uh,
Yeah, RTS, and it
RTS.
doesn't need to have the high-end graphics. In fact, for an RTS, the more simplistic the art direction, the clearer it is to play. That's kind of one of the hardest things when RTSs went 3D. Um,
Right, yeah.
yeah.
I think that it probably impacted them in such a negative and again, that's why I love even if we don't settle on SD as the final design choice,
Mhm.
I think that having the SD units makes a huge, it just makes it easier to see what you're looking at. I think
And
that
I
the
don't hate it.
camera angle is probably a little too far out. One of the things I think I might come in here and adjust is our lens ortho size is currently set to 12. I'm gonna set it to 10, and then let's see what this looks like, and if this looks good, we'll call it an evening, but until
Okay.
then,
Well, let's see.
I wanna make sure that, like, again, this has to look good, it has to feel good, and then we can talk about it playing good.
Yeah. Although I don't hate the SD. If we
That
decide to go that way, I'm not opposed because this just looks great.
I'm glad to hear that.
Cool.
Alright, where did my cursor go? I did the thing again. I did the thing where I lost the cursor. This is one of those things where, like, I know that I set it up in script where, like, the cursor is supposed to snap to the center when the game starts, and it doesn't, which is kind of a concern, but, again, that's part of the troubleshooting that AI is gonna help us with. Oh, there it is,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh,
I think it gets caught on colliders in the map, and
oh.
it, like, messes with things.
Oh, because it's, like, attached to an object so that you can find it.
Yeah, it starts, like, hitting against things,
Yeah.
and we don't want that for sure. I know exactly what's causing it. So let me
Oh,
if I if we take our cursor no, the sphere collider is a trigger. It's not a actual collider. Hmm, that is surprising to me that it's all over the place then. And there's no collider on here. This is all um hmm, that's very interesting. So the way that this works in script is that that sphere collider, when it enters the body of a unit, it recognizes, hey, this is a unit, and if the player clicks down, then that's what it's trying to select. If it's not attached to a unit, then it knows that it's somewhere on the nav surface. Likewise, if it's attached to a resource, if it's attached to something else, it knows what the object is that it's touching.
mm.
And if it's not touching anything, it is locked on the nav mesh surface.
What about multi-select?
there is a click and drag, so we can
Oh,
select multi units. So that's
nice.
yeah, we're working on that as well. Um, hmm, interesting, interesting. So there's definitely a lot of work to do in the just polishing up the controls, but overall, like I said, I love the way that this cell shading looks.
Yeah.
Even on the 3D models is pretty cool, but like I think that it looks even better on the 2D models. So like if I were to take these guys, I just want to turn them around and see them what they look like in pixel form. So if we rotate them 180 degrees and then we hit play, what do they look like here? Like you said, it's like the idle animation is so satisfying to look at.
No, it is, 'cause I don't know how much of that is my memory just picking up games that were well done in that way, where they went that far. Yeah. Almost
Yeah.
that pre-rendered look, right? Isn't that what we've I think
Yeah,
we talked about that before.
that's
Kinda like the
exactly what it's kinda got
Donkey Kong
going on.
Country. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, dude, I remember that, like, in Donkey Kong, the way it was like
Yeah, they actually did everything in 3D, but then they made 2D pixel things for the hardware. That's very fascinating.
and
It's interesting to think about game development in that way, where you're making it in 3D, but the actual game isn't 3D.
yeah, and you
Huh.
know what's interesting is there's actually several things that's interesting about that. One, you inspired this in me because you were the one that turned me on to the game Dead Cells. In fact, you even bought it
Oh,
for me and said, "Hey, this
oh.
game is so good, you need to play it." And so you bought me a copy of Dead Cells with the Castlevania add-on, and I love the art direction in that game. It's
Yeah,
fantastic, and that's what inspired this sort of
that's cool.
project where we take a 3D game and we 2Dify it. I was fascinated by the way they did it when I
Yeah.
saw that.
And then I think
So,
we were even,
thank
like,
you.
researching the engine they used or something.
Yeah.
Remember that? And it was like, I guess, a known game engine, but not like Unreal or anything. I forget what it
No,
was.
no. I think it was done in Godot, if I
Yes,
remember correctly,
yes, that's it, exactly. Yeah,
which was so cool.
yeah.
So, between that and then another game that I've been talking about is G Generation. Like, the G Generation games, they use 3D models that, again, have been rendered down into 2D sprites. So, like, all of the combat animations, it is a 3D model that exists, and a lot of people they're like, "Ooh, how do I extract the 3D model?" And it's like, it's not in there. They only they only exported the 2D animation of that.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And it's funny how the reverse was with the Castlevania or, Symphony of the Night when they went on PS1, it was too hard to do the 2D hardware, so Castlevania Symphony of the Night is actually a 3D game that you're just looking at on a plane, and then they just put the pixels on the polygons.
Which is so cool,
I
man,
know.
like,
I love that stuff.
that's what makes all of this stuff is so fascinating, like, I love game
Behind the
development
scenes.
from the
Yeah.
technical.
So, isn't that interesting how much we love talking about game development and filmmaking? It's like the behind the scenes stuff that we're really into.
It reminds me of something that you said when we were talking about Jim Mickle and the interview that you covered when he was talking about the Gundam movie, and I like zeroing in on the framing of the film
Yeah.
because framing is such an important term not only in filmmaking but also in video game making because like we've been saying, it's not just it's not just identifying like where are you going to place the camera, but it's what's the focal length of the camera going to be. Are you going to make it like 2D? Are you going to make it 3D? Are you going to make it like are you going to create perspective, or are you going to flatten it out to where
Yeah.
everything is the same plane?
There's a lot of things that you might not know right away until as you get through and how the game feels, it's like, "Oh, it's better if we do it this way or that way." Like, even Halo, I think originally was an RTS also, and then
I don't remember if it was an RTS or if it was something else. But yeah, I mean they did convert it into a shooter
yeah.
like late. And then even I think Halo Wars is like a widely regarded.
Yes.
RTS game.
So funny because this goes back to a conversation we are having earlier. I purposely avoided Halo Wars because 'cause I'm like, "You can't do RTS on Xbox on a console." And I've played both Halo Wars games, and they are my type of RTS 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, if we can recreate that with this, then I think that we've done something successfully.
Yep. Yep. Definitely.
Well, good deal. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this evening, listening to me rant about Double O, and obviously gush about G Generation Eternal, and of course the Gundam card game. Which, again, if you guys are interested in this, Friday, go check out your local card shop,
Yeah.
your local game shop. See if they've got some of those starter decks in stock for you, and yeah, come back and visit us tomorrow for the Gundam Explained show.
That's right.
Adam, am I forgetting anything? Any big announcements this week?
No, I don't think there were any big Gundam announcements this week. I think that was last week. Actually, or the week before, whenever that was. But yeah, this week's been pretty quiet. But this has been an action-packed episode, though, I gotta say.
Dude, I love this kind of stuff. And if you guys like this kind of stuff where we do these type of things, or whether we're doing 3D modeling, any of that kind of stuff, I know we didn't even really get to do anything. I think all we did was apply a tune shader, but
Hey, we got to see
sometimes
this in
that's
action. It was cool. Troubleshooting in action in real
troubleshooting
time.
in action. And 90% of you think that I should stick it out with Double O. Sounds like
Yes.
I'm in it for the long haul.
Nice. Yeah, and, like, I think we were talking about earlier, I would love both of us to talk about the movie once you
Yeah,
get there. Yeah,
and we most certainly will.
sweet.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your night, and we will catch
Yeah,
you later.
see y'all.